Senator Roberts, you're seeking the call.
Thank you, Deputy President. Senator Bragg's disallowance seeks to throw a spanner in the works of the build-to-rent scheme. That's a very good thing, and One Nation will be wholeheartedly supporting. Foreign corporations used to pay a 30% withholding tax on housing investments like build-to-rent. Labor cut that in half to 15%. Let's be clear. This Labor government said to foreign corporate landlords like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, First State, Labor said to them that we'll cut the amount of tax you pay in half. Forget the Australian dream of owning your own home. Labor's dream is that you live in a stack and pack shoebox apartment paying rent to BlackRock forever, while those foreign corporations pay less tax than you do. That's what build-to-rent means. Whenever you hear build-to-rent, remember renting forever to a foreign corporation, a foreign corporate landlord, a foreign global wealth investment fund. They'll build homes for sure, and Australians will never, ever own them. Never. It's built to rent forever. From the committee report into the Treasury Laws Amendment, Bill to Rent Bill 2024, and Capital Works Bill to Rent Misuse Tax Bill 2024, from the provisions. The bill provisions would include reducing the final withholding tax rate on eligible fund payments, distributions of rental income and capital gains from eligible managed investment trusts, trust investments, from 30% to 15%, starting from the 1st of July 2024. So there you go, a tax cut in half for those global corporate predatory investments, investors who own almost everything and are determined to own everything. I'll say that again, who own almost everything and are determined to own everything. Next, the draft legislation was adjusted as a result of this consultation to ensure the government's policy objective of incentivising foreign investment in BTR, built to rent, including affordable housing supply, is achieved. Objective of incentivising foreign investment in built to rent. Foreign investment. They are admitting that the objective of the bill is incentivising foreign and predatory corporations into owning your home. The Property Council advised the 15% tax rate for investment in housing is already available to Australian investors. The Managed Investment Trust withholding tax rate applies to withholding tax that goes back to overseas predators, parasites, investors. Yet foreign investors can also capital partner with Australian investors. That is the most telling part of all. This bill only changed the tax treatment of foreign, predatory, multinational corporations. That's all. Nothing for Australians. Australian companies could do it. Foreign companies paid a penalty. That's a good thing. Yet the Labor Party of Australia changed that. You and the government changed that. Is Labor the party for Australia? Or are they the party for global foreign corporations? Build to rent answers that question clearly. Clearly they are for the foreign corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, First State. One Nation, though, is for Australians owning their own home. I'm going to do something a little unusual and quote extensively Senator Bragg's dissenting report on the Build to Rent bill, an outstanding report. I hope you don't mind, Senator Bragg. It goes to the very heart of what's wrong with the new Labor Party. Firstly, Build to Rent has had minimal cut-through in Australia because our tax settings are designed to favour individual mum and dad investors, not institutions. That's appropriate. This legislation seeks to tip the scales in favour of institutions through tax concessions in order to make build-to-rent projects profitable for industry super funds and foreign fund managers. Labor thinks that institutions need a leg up over Australian first-home buyers. Why? Dr Murray was critical of the bill's attempted perversion of our tax arrangements. Quote, "It's not clear to me why local investors shouldn't be advantaged over foreign investors in Australian housing. I don't see that there's a good argument for levelling the playing field there. It's not clear to me. If the intention is to attract super funds into this, why owning your own home via your super fund and renting your own home from your super fund is better than owning your own home and using that money to buy what is the best asset to own in retirement. Just like One Nation policy." At the public hearing, the Association of Superannuation Funds of Australia, ASFA, suggested that Australians would prefer BlackRock and CBUS to be the nation's landlords. Really? You would? And described mum and dad investors as undertaking a hobby activity. How condescending, how arrogant. Do you think the Australian people want to rent their house from a super fund? Mr Clare says, I think that they would be very happy with institutionally owned residential property where there is an option of having longer-term tenancies rather than the more typical in-the-market situation where there is a lack of assurance of continuity of tenancy because it's a small-scale hobby activity for individual landlords. This is the view of a vested interest. Most Australians would not agree with this proposal. Other witnesses did not share ASFA's view. Grounded Community Land Trust Advocacy told the committee, "Are you concerned that we are seeing a corporatisation of housing in Australia?" Mr Fitzgerald, quote, "Absolutely. This is delivering horrifying results in the Northern Hemisphere, and this legislation makes no account of that, no account of what's actually happening. It perplexes me that this government, which purports to be in support of Labor, that's workers, is allowing rent maximisation strategies to come through unabated." Yes, he went on to say, I agree. Pushing mum and dad investors out of the housing market will result in less competition, an oligopoly for the big fellas. What we're seeing in the Northern Hemisphere is a horrific new software program called YieldStar, which in Atlanta coordinates rental increases of 81% of rental properties. The Board of Supervisors in San Francisco has now banned this as a monopolistic practice, yet you want to bring it in. There's just nothing in this legislation that even prepares us for what's coming. Nothing in this legislation that even prepares us for what is coming. End of quote from Mr Fitzgerald. The Housing Industry Association pointed to the importance of Australia's housing market maintaining a focus on individual ownership. But isn't it the case that the character of the housing market in Australia is largely focused on individuals? Do you think that's a good or a bad design feature? Mr Reardon said, quote, in answer, "I think that is a very positive outcome with the association and connection with home and with location and a sense of place and purpose, all of those dynamics, reinforcing what we already know and what Senator Bragg has already discussed. All the evidence," he goes on, "shows that people who own their own home are far less likely to be incarcerated and more likely to be gainfully employed. All of the evidence shows positive economic, social and cultural outcomes. Personal responsibility, a cornerstone, a foundation of a safe and productive society. Personal responsibility enables and is the basis for a safe and productive society. Australians," next quote from Senator Bragg's report, "Australians are not interested in subsidising institutional investors. When asked what organisations would be the key beneficiaries of build-to-rent tax concessions, Treasury confirmed that foreign fund managers would be at the centre." Treasury confirmed. Quote, "There are a lot of foreign investors using the managed investment trust because of the withholding tax concessions and other benefits from using that structure. But there can also be domestic investors using the managed investment trust. They just get a different tax regime. Those investors will be working in partnership with commercial developers to develop these buildings." End of quote. CBUS Super has previously committed to scaling up in the build-to-rent sector, announcing a plan to scale up its portfolio to approximately $2 billion in apartments. Some of the most alarming evidence from the public hearing was that the passing of this bill could see Australian taxpayers subsidising foreign governments in their investment in their housing market. Australian taxpayers could be subsidising foreign governments in their investment in our housing market. Dr Murray, again, he warned, quote, "I find it interesting because we've already got foreign investment funds doing build-to-rent. That's what's even funnier is that the largest one is a foreign government. We've got the Abu Dhabi Investment Council, who owns the Smith Collective on the Gold Coast, which is 1,251 build-to-rent dwellings, and we're now proposing to offer them a better tax treatment for something they're already doing through a foreign government. I find that a bizarre outcome of this proposed bill. It is bizarre." End of quote. Approaches like build-to-rent endeavour to emulate the corporate housing model, which has seen a downturn in the United States housing market. Fund managers have become the predominant landlords in the United States. And I'll digress from Senator Bragg's dissenting report for a minute. The bankers in the United States said in the 1920s that their dream is through a combination of predatory behaviour and legislation to get a monopoly and own every house that they can in the country, to control people. Because once people have their residence at stake, then they are easily controlled. Fund managers have become the predominant landlords in the US. According to the US Government General Accounting Office, large institutional investors emerged following the global financial crisis, purchasing foreclosed homes at auction in bulk and converting them into rental housing. In 2023, corporate housing funds held $1 trillion US dollars in assets. In Atlanta, Charlotte and Jacksonville, institutional investors owned 25%, 18% and 21% of the rental stock, respectively. That's what you're wanting here. We don't want it. This corporate housing model, in order to generate a return on investment for institutional investors, relies on individuals being locked into a cycle of perpetual renting. Locked in. Exactly what we've been warning for the last 5 years. There is a growing consensus in the United States that this model has failed and is hurting prospective first-home buyers. Lawmakers from both sides of politics are now introducing legislation to limit institutional investment accordingly. What's happening? This has failed. While the United States is moving away from corporate housing, the Australian Labor Party is forcing Australians into it. Well, Senator Bragg, I'm not ashamed to admit we probably couldn't have written it better ourselves. Thank you. Build to rent is an abomination that destroys the Australian dream of owning your own home. One nation raised this cruel reality years ago. One nation rejects making Australians forever renters to a cartel of greedy foreign corporations. Let's see if you repeat that. One nation rejects making Australians forever renters to a cartel of greedy foreign corporations, predatory, parasitic corporations. Parasitic predators driving the World Economic Forum and United Nations agenda. On your conscience. All Australians should be able to work hard and one day own their own slice of this great, big, wonderful country with so much potential. Only one nation has the policy to make this real for everyday Australians.